So guys, Keeps Trade today is June 5th, and we're going to do a full day recap. One loss, and then I ended up calling out a potential trade that members took. And then I sent a trade in the chat as well that won. But overall, a pretty decent day, right? Market has not been the greatest this week. We've been pretty much just, small win day, break even, pretty flat. But for me personally, I've been doing just fine playing my scalps at my key levels. So today's profit was just playing scalps for me. So I took 2 trades. I made this profit, and then after that, it sucked because I really wanted to take this setup, but I have to follow my rules. And 2 trades are my max, and I did that. I have to be content with that. It would have been $1,000 day if I would have been able to take the setup. But coming in the session open, we had that chop. We had that very nasty price action. And our main narrative for this day, I just wanted to see, was this daily previous day's low at the 640 to rebalance to the daily fair value gap. Understanding that we swept out previous week's high and previous day's high pre-market, I'm looking for the shift back down. So our loss came on a totally fine setup that we've ended up sweeping out, right? We saw that the 5-minute fair value gap was inversed, right? And we found a nice rejection, and we knew that we were looking for the 640 target. So I did not take this trade as I already took my 2 trades for the day, but I did call it out for members on a small size trade, right? This was a very aggressive trade. Breakdown, inverse of that, grab short, pretty much an instant stop out there. But I'm not too upset about the way I called this out, right? We've swept out previous week's high and previous day's high. We've shifted lower. We respected the inverse 5-minute. We broke down aggressively. We came into a 1-minute, immediately inversed the bullish. So I was expecting for an aggressive continuation down to this low, but it's totally fine. Loss happened, and guess what? We end up getting that set up to take that target out. And then I called a potential 5-minute long model before I got off, and we had Caesar take that puppy. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so Caesar grabbed 2 trades off of that 5-minute and fucking an absolute nasty profit there at 3,000. But this was a fake out setup, right? Pretty nasty. I gave the plan, but I did not call it officially. I didn't, because of the conditions, right? But ended up working out where we faked out that 5-minute. We found buying through. We've inversed both of these. I would not take the inverses as we're pretty far up, right? So I would have waited for that bullish fair value gap entry. Stop loss resting here. And then your targets would be conservative. So I would look at the day's range high and then new high on the day. Boom. Would have hit nicely. And then there's also another 5-minute model as well, which was the dip back into this 5-minute fair value gap here. And then obviously either could play a bullish, I don't think we tapped the bullish, or you could play a shift entry here. But overall, pretty nice. So 1 loss, potential 5-minute model. Again, did not count this in the win rate because I'd have to officially call it out. But I gave the idea, but hopped off because of the action, and I was already green. And then coming into the PM, right, this was a very good quality trade. Let me show you guys all of the potential trades you could have taken here in the PM, right? So number 1 is going to be this 4-hour. This is way back when, though. But this was way back here. 8:54. So we drew back into this 5-minute, my fault, 4-hour at 8:54, right? So we're in this 4-hour fair value gap, and we're waiting for sellers to come in. So you could have taken a very ballsy early entry at this consolidation 1-minute model. This would be the earliest, riskiest entry here. Consolidation, swept higher. Your inverse entry comes at this fair value gap. And your target would be day's low. And then obviously my main narrative draw today, which was previous day's low into the daily fair value gap. And then here's what I called out for the chat, which was in the PM session. So, I was giving out my plan, right? I said I want to see, I said about to close the 5-minute bullish. I said, in that case, wait for the 5-minute bullish to inverse short 21,706. I said, just don't expect it, right? It could come, it could not come. I said, now we wait. And I said, we're inside a 15-minute, right? And I was just getting mad about how it's just not playing. And then I said, I'm hopping out for the gym. Here is your plan, right? If you get an aggressive seller through, why this low? Because it's a respected 1 minute fair value gap, and it's also the low of the inverse. And then 706, which was that first 5 minute I called, 2 stacked 5 minutes potential entries, right? So I said if you find aggressive sellers through these price levels, you would be short to that target, and the target was obviously sell side liquidity 21,640 into the daily fair value gap here. And then obviously like someone told me they took it, and then members took them obviously. But yeah, that trade wasn't actually the first trade. There was an early entry here, which would have been totally fine. There was also a same exact model that came here on this 5 minute fair value gap. We know we've inversed and broke down, right? We formed this bearish 5 minute. There was a second trade that you could have taken off the classic setup again. Traced back into the 5 minute, found the rejection, inversed the bullish. There is your short, scale break even, and obviously your TP runners could be what? Lows on the day, and then previous day's low into that. But the setup that I was calling for in the chat was this 15-minute setup. So again, I noted that, hey, we're in a 15-minute fair value gap, which is this fair value gap here. And we were, like I said, I hopped off around here when we were consolidating, but I said, wait for the break. When we get it, play your trade. So 706 was this entry here, right? But I had this set up as well, which was 38, which is what the member took, right? I said if we sell off through this price level, which is this respected 1 minute, and also low the 5 minute. So this was your entry here. We inversed the 5 minute. And what did we do? We traded back into, right, again, respected 1 minute, inversed the 5 minute, traded back into that 1 minute, 5 minute inverse. Here is your short. Your stop loss would be placed either here or here. So you look at about a 23 to 32 point risk, and then your scale break even is going to be at the low on the day. Full TP is going to be what again? 21,640 into the daily fair value gap. As I said, that was my main narrative target. Higher time frames, previous day's high swept, previous week's high swept. If we find selling pressure, we find sellers lower, what is our immediate hunt on the higher time frame? Previous day's low, filling this imbalance. That is why. That was that trade. And then there was a few more setups that I want to go over. There was probably another 5 minute model, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Inverse 5 minute here could have been grabbed. There's another one here. There's so many setups that played out. And it sucked because I took my trades already. But yeah, there was a setup here as well. Respecting higher time frames. Inverse 5 minute again. Clearly selling off bearish. Inverse 5 minute short. Put stop loss above that 1 minute bearish respected. Boom. TP here. Same thing here. Draws back into the 5 minute. Rejects. Inverses both bullishes. Forms the bearish. Short entry. Short entry. And then TP. Low day. Again. And it would have gapped down and smashed. Wow. Same model, and that is just a continuation model. But that's going to be it for June 5th. A full recap. Every single trade you could have taken. Hopefully you guys found something valuable. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. And if you want to join the Discord, we'll be happy to have any and all new members. But until next time, guys, peace out.